Well, we are in Revelation chapter 8, if you want to turn that way. I have a dirty little secret that I need to share. I need to confess to you. I know. I carry it around with me all the time, and it peaks out this time of year. And I'm tired of hiding it, folks. I'm tired of hiding it. I'm still a Rams fan. Yeah. I see the colors and they just make me happy. I've tried hating them and hating Kroenke and all that stuff, but I just can't help rooting for them. The heart wants what the heart wants. You know, I had somebody talk to me one time, like, well, when it comes to sports, like the players will leave and the teams will move, do you really just root for laundry? I guess at that point. But part of my love for the Rams are the emotions it generates because of a lot of the memories with my dad. When the Rams came to town, he got season tickets, and it was awesome. It was really awesome when the Greatest Show on Turf happened, and we were good. Those playoff games were insane. They were some of the loudest things I've ever been in. Troy was with us at some of them. We'd be standing, yelling into each other's ears and could barely hear each other. And when we won that first NFC championship, I knew I'd be the only one from my group back at college that had been there. And so I spent the $40 or whatever it is to buy that hat right there at the stadium so that I could wear it because I wanted everybody to know that I was there. I saw Ricky Prohl make the catch, and it was incredible. And 2 weeks later, at the Super Bowl, unfortunately, I was not able to come home. And I really wanted to come home. I really wanted to watch it with my dad, but college kept me away. And I got to tell you, it was one of the most emotional experiences of my life. That first half, the Rams jump out to that 6-0 lead at halftime, and then the fear when the Titans tied it up, the joy at Bruce's go-ahead touchdown, and the tension of that last drive ending with Mike Jones making the tackle of Kevin Dyson there on the 1-yard line. I was elated. I was jumping up and down. I was in tears. I looked around, and I was the only one there who cared.
That bad.
Everybody else at the party went, oh, the game's over?
Good.
Like, they were just at the Super Bowl party because that was what you did. And so I celebrated alone. We were at the same event, yet we had completely different experiences because we had a completely different perspective. And as we turn to Revelation chapter 8, your perspective will drive your emotional response, your perspective that has been shaped by your experience. And we start at Revelation chapter 8, verse 1. When the Lamb opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Why is there silence? Why half an hour? There's a lot of speculation. Is it horrified silence at what's about to come, the judgment and the wrath that is going to be poured out? Is it terrified silence? Is it just holy silence as we stand in awe of our God? For the believer, we have one response to the presence of God, but an unbeliever has a very different response. And we have seen and will continue to see, like in every part of Revelation, there's a lot of speculation about different aspects. One of my favorites about the 30 minutes is there a historicist out there named Elliot who's calculated that half an hour in heaven is precisely equivalent to 70 years of Roman history.
That's
impressive. Now, why is his definition so precise? Because it makes his system work. Another one, Matthew Henry, who has a wonderful free online commentary that is a blessing. You can go and read it right now. He was back in the 1800s. I don't agree with everything that's in there. That doesn't mean it's not wonderful. He suggests that the silence represents a period of time where the church had zero complaints about life. Really? I'm pretty sure that within our collective lives, so just the 40 of us or so, we couldn't find 30 overlapping minutes where the 40 of us were all happy and in a good place, much less the entire world. I don't know that that's really realistic. So where should we look? Where should we look for what the symbols mean? Where do we look, folks? The Old Testament, awesome. When does silence happen in the Old Testament? We see that it happens before judgment. There are several verses there. In the literature outside of the Bible in that first century of Judaism, they would talk about God being silent as he would hear the prayers for judgment from his people. Those were the most important to him. And so he got everything around him quiet so he could hear those pleas for justice. There was silence at the offering of incense at the temple. We see this in Luke 1. We also see it back in Leviticus if you go and you read those passages. And we see it when the day of the Lord comes. Zephaniah 1:7 tells us to be silent in the presence of the Lord God, for the day of the Lord is near. And we've heard that phrase a couple of times in Revelation, the day of the Lord. You've heard me say it several times, and we will continue to hear it, and it will continue to be referred to. But what exactly does the day of the Lord mean? It was a phrase that developed over time throughout Jewish history. Think about the term the American dream. When it was first used, it described the ability of a person to live a good life without the oppression of the government. That's where it started. Well, then as time moved on, it kind of changed. It became getting rich through hard work. Okay. Some view it as a right now of every American that you should be able to get rich through hard work. And then it has evolved a little bit more. And some now view it as the ability to get rich and without the hard work. You should just be rich because you're American. And that the American dream promises not just equality of opportunity, but an equity of outcome. And that American dream phrase is hard to pin down because it's used by different people in different ways, but they're all connected to that same general idea of a healthy and prosperous life. And the day of the Lord is similar. It had a similar development. It has different connotations depending on who's saying it and when they're saying it, but it all comes back to a concept that it is the time when God shows up and redeems. Most scholars see the start of it in Exodus 14, chapter 30. Thus Yahweh saved Israel that day. So they see this as the first day of the Lord. He saved Israel that day from the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. He saw a part of the day of the Lord is that the chosen people of God are enslaved. And so God shows up, and God saves the chosen, and he punishes the wicked. Chosen people are enslaved. God shows up. The chosen are saved, and the wicked are punished. And this Exodus is a pattern that repeats throughout Scripture. If you have the picture of the Exodus in hand, you will find it as a design pattern all over the Old and the New Testament. The chosen people of God are slaves. God shows up and saves them. He punishes the wicked oppressors of his chosen people. And there are small days of the Lord throughout the life of Israel. You will see it over and over again. Here are just a few of them. The locust plagues in Joel. The Babylonians fall. The day of Midian. All of these are little days of the Lord, and that phrase is used to describe them. And we experience small days of the Lord in our lives. We feel the oppression. Maybe it's a boss who mistreats us, or a relationship that has gone wrong and has led to abuse. Maybe it's a business or a person who takes advantage of us, a criminal stealing from us. We have been wronged. We have been oppressed. And then that moment comes where they get their comeuppance. You see that boss get fired, that criminal arrested, the business that falls. We can't help but cheer. Yes, the wicked have been punished. That's what we want to see. And from our perspective, justice has been done and wrongs have been righted. Do you think the oppressor feels the same way? You think they feel like, oh, yep, I submit, I was wrong? No. They have justifications. They refuse to accept that divine perspective. The same event has occurred, but different experiences because of our different perspectives. So often we see oppression and we want justice to happen right now. We want a day of the Lord right now. God, why aren't you doing anything? Don't you see? Don't you know? Well, I'm the hands and feet of Jesus, so maybe I just need to bring a little day of the Lord myself. Seen that meme or that video where it says, what would Jesus do? And then you remember that flipping over tables and using a whip is a valid option. Maybe this is what we're supposed to be doing right now. Without getting into that one, there's a lot more to that story. He didn't whip anybody. If we take it into our own hands, we're short-sighted and sinful creatures. We think we want justice, and we might even set out with a good goal of doing justice, but so often what we really want is we just want to win. And that leads into us becoming the new oppressors. This is why God tells us in Deuteronomy 32, vengeance is mine and recompense, a repayment for the time when their foot shall slip. For the day of their calamity is at hand. A day of the Lord is coming for them. Their doom comes swiftly, for Yahweh will vindicate his people. He will have compassion on his servants when he sees that their power is gone and there is none remaining, bond or free. There will come that time when God will show up. Then he will say, where are their gods? Where are those they look to for salvation? Where are those they look to for strength? The rock in which they took refuge, who ate the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their drink offerings. Let them rise up and help you. Let them be your protection. See that I, even I, am he, and there is no God beside me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal, and there is none that can deliver out of my hand. When Yahweh shows up the day of the Lord, there is none that can change the consequences. He is the perfect judge. He knows the perfect time to bring justice. He knows how to do it without becoming an oppressor himself. He knows when to forgive, when to give grace and mercy. And all of these small days of the Lord become patterns for the final day of the Lord, the big day of the Lord, the time when final justice comes, when all wicked deeds are punished and all oppression stops. And this is what we are seeing in Revelation. We are seeing the final day of the Lord. This is why it relates so easily to our time and place, to every time and place, because small days of the Lord are constantly occurring around us. God is constantly bringing relief. God is constantly bringing justice. God is constantly bringing mercy. He is constantly involved in his creation, in your life, helping us to see with the divine perspective, to give us hope that the final day of the Lord is coming. I took care of it here. I'll take care of it then. Trust, have faith that I know what I'm doing. And we anticipate it. We look forward to it. And when the moment is imminent, we hold our breath and we get silent. Is this really the final one? How will God bring justice? We saw an allusion to this in the phrase of Revelation 6, for the great day of their wrath has come. Who is able to survive? Where can they look to for protection? What is God going to do? Silence descends like before that movie starts or that concert begins as everyone waits in anticipation. But God's justice is not secret. He announces it clearly and loudly. He uses the greatest instrument of all time to declare it. He uses the trumpet. When I saw 7 angels who stand before God and 7 trumpets were given to them. You can't blow a trumpet in secret. I've tried. Okay, I was a trumpet player for most of my life. That was my main instrument. I try to practice quietly in the apartment. Even if you get like these little practice meetings, it never works. Everyone can hear a trumpet when you blow it. They're used to make announcements, to provide orders, to get attention. So everyone knew what was going on. In the final day of the Lord, there will be no doubt who is the one true God, who is the one who brings justice and grace, who brings consequence and salvation. No one else can deliver. And as the trumpets are prepared, another angel came and stood at the altar with a golden censer, and he was given much incense to offer with the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints rose before God from the hand of the angel. Now, incense is not something we do in most Protestant churches anymore. And honestly, the biggest reason is because we think it's too Catholic. And we've actually lost something by stopping. The point of incense was to engage your sense of smell. As you would approach the temple of Yahweh, as you approached God, it was designed, the temple was designed for you to recognize you were coming someplace special. We are embodied beings. Space matters to us. This place where we do church, it means something special to me. And it's been amazing as God has grown that. One of the reasons it's special to me is if you look across that parking lot at that yellow house, my dad built that house. I grew up playing in this parking lot. I can remember the smell of the house. I can remember when my dad built the fence over there that desperately needs some maintenance right now. I remember the games of street hockey and volleyball, and every time I come here, my body feels comfortable, and it remembers this is part of my home. And I feel comfortable, and I'm incredibly blessed to be making more wonderful memories with all of you people here and adding to that. This place makes me happy. Just like when I see those Rams colors, these emotions return. And the temple of Israel would create similar feelings as they drew near. It was sheathed in gold, so it would shine like no other place around. The incense was unique to the temple. So as you would approach, the first thing you would notice is the smell. I'm getting close. I'm getting close. Think of those smells that you enjoy in your life and that mean something to you. My mom cooking bekacher, slanihoska, the apple pie. The songs of the temple would ring in your ears. You were entering some place special. I can even still smell the dome where the Rams played, concrete and nachos. Good. We see the connection between incense and the prayers of the saints here because God wants our prayers before him because they're pleasing to him. The incense is talked about as rising before God, being pleasing to God. It was a mark of the temple. There was a lamp that was always there and incense that was always burning to show that God was always home, always available. Our prayers make God happy. They bring God joy, just like me seeing that yellow house or seeing that blue and gold. And this also shows that our prayers are our contribution to justice. Prayers engage us in spiritual warfare, in the present and in the future. It is not a battle, a war that we lightly enter. Ephesians 6:18 tells us that prayer is essential as we engage in spiritual battle, and we must be constantly alert and persevering. We should offer these prayers and supplications for ourselves and for all of the saints. There's a lot of confusion about spiritual warfare and how it works, and that will be part of our study of our Revelation. Our number one role in spiritual warfare is prayer. As we look at warfare in the context of Revelation 8 here, we see that our battle is fierce. We will see that there are demons who are fighting and want to destroy you. They want to tear creation down. We will see that our prayers are effective, that our cries go up and Yahweh comes down. we will see that our God is faithful. He will demonstrate his power. He will vindicate his people. He will extend mercy. He will uphold justice. Prayer is our number one weapon. It activates and engages the power of God in our lives and in the lives of others. We should act. We should be the hands and feet of Jesus in the world, but that must be done and can only be done correctly when we do it prayerfully. This week, as I was doing training as mental health first aid, one of the things that kept coming back to me over and over again, it's wonderful training. Wonderful training. We're just dealing with the symptoms. We're dealing to how to help someone deal with anxiety, how to deal with depression, how to deal with oppression. But the only solution that will bring them lasting joy and peace and comfort is Jesus. We have to engage with our words, with our works, and with our prayers. Prayer is not getting man's will done in heaven. It's not just asking God to do what we want him to do, but prayer is getting God's will done on earth. It is not overcoming God's reluctance. It is laying hold of God's willingness, God's character, his promise that he is faithful. And as the prayers of the saints and the incense rose before God, we see verse 5, the power that our prayers unleashed. Then the angel took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar and threw it on the earth, and there were peals of thunder. There were rumblings, there were flashes of lightning, there was an earthquake, and the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to blow them. These are descriptions. The earthquake, the peals of thunder, the lightning. This is what it looks like when God shows up in person. You read Exodus 19, on the morning of the 3rd day, there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud on the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast, so that all the people in the camp trembled. And the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, and Moses spoke and God answered in thunder. You read through the Psalms, you will see the same language over and over again. Our prayers went up and God himself came down to be our relief, to be our salvation, to be our joy. God shows up when we ask him to. What an amazing God. Stepping off his throne and humbling himself to the point of death for you, to save us who are enslaved to our sin, to work us through that exodus, to save us as his chosen people. As we head into the 7 trumpets, again, there are a number of different views. The historicists will often see these as a series of invasions against the Roman Empire. There's this internet rumor going around about how men think about the Roman Empire every day. And I'm like, oh man, I think I'm one of those guys. Because as I read about the Vandals and the Huns and the Saracens and the Turks, I'm like, yeah, I've read all those books. Yeah, I've read Gibbon's book. Yeah. The 6th trumpet, even bringing the fall of Constantinople. The preterists view the first 4 trumpets as the disasters inflicted by Romans on the Jews during the Jewish war that ended in AD 70 with the destruction of the temple, and the demonic spirits, the oppression on those besieged Jews as they became cannibalistic. And the 6 trumpets referring to the destruction of the temple itself. The futurist will take these trumpets as either literal or symbolic, representing calamities that will be endured by the lost during the coming 7-year Great Tribulation. They may be supernatural, may just be natural disasters. Some view them as those nuclear weapons. The spiritualist approach sees them as catastrophes that happen throughout history, that are part of living in a sinful world and God's displeasure, and that the trumpets are warnings of worse things to come. And despite these disagreements, there is some unity in connecting these trumpets, especially to the Old Testament. One of the areas of consensus is the connection to Joshua 6 and the fall of Jericho, where they march around the city 7 times and they let out those 7 trumpet blasts. There's the trumpets are announcing the impending victory of a holy war, which is what we're engaged in now, a holy war against the powers of the world. 7 trumpets were blown by 7 priests, and the ark was present in Jericho. We will see in Revelation 11 that the ark is present in heaven. But interestingly, at the Jericho episode in chapter 6, there was a verbal silence right before the last trumpet was blown, just like we saw the silence here. The second point of agreement among scholars is the connection of the trumpets to the plagues of Egypt. You'll see the fire and hail and blood. You'll see the poisoning of seas and waters. You will see darkness. You will see locusts. Because these signs, just like they did in the Exodus, they demonstrate Yahweh's incomparable omnipotence. He is the only all-powerful one. If you really get into studying those Exodus plagues, you will see every one of them was aimed at a specific Egyptian god. Oh yeah, you got a god of the sun? I'll turn that off. Can he fix it? Oh, he can't? I can, don't worry about it. In fact, not only can I turn the sun off and can I make ruin the water, I can do it everywhere except where my chosen people are. Except for Goshen, where they were living. Just like we see the sealing of the 144 and the great multitude that has been sealed and protected from these things that are to come. This again is connecting that idea of little days of the Lord being used to express what that final day of the Lord will look like. This shows that those plagues of the Exodus, these other times throughout the Old Testament, they're a foreshadowing. In biblical scholarship, they call it a typology of what is to come, a way that we can use the past to understand the future. Now, some people in every system, whether historicist or preterist or futurist or spiritualist, they will try to force connections between the seals and the trumpets to support their view. There's not a one-to-one correspondence between the seals and the trumpets, or the thunders, or the bowls. And so here's one example. And I find that these always increase the tension instead of lessening it. As they're trying to just make it work. I want my system to work. I want it to work so bad. It's okay to not find hidden meaning in every detail. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. John is just describing what is going on. I see that the primary perspective of those seals were on the trials through which every believer must pass. We're part of the world. When bad stuff happens, it happens to us too. When the economy is doing poorly, it affects us. When there's a war in our land, it affects us. The 6 trumpets seems to focus more on the unbelievers and their response. And this is actually strengthened when you see that connection to the plagues of Egypt. When the plagues occurred, they didn't affect the Israelites, like we mentioned. They did not affect the chosen people of God, not even the last plague, because they were sealed with the blood of the Lamb. I see these trumpets as the same events of the seals, but from a different perspective. It's okay if you disagree with me. It's okay if you see a linear pull through instead, because we will both arrive at the same point at the end. We will both arrive at the return of Jesus. Verse 7, the first angel blew his trumpet, and there was followed hail and fire mixed with blood, and these were thrown down upon the earth, and 1/3 of the earth was burned up, and 1/3 of the trees were burned up, and all the grass was burned up. The parts of the earth affected by the first trumpet are those dealing with the food supply. Just as in Exodus 9, where we see the first plagues affecting the food supply. And this is similar to the famine of the 3rd seal, but again, there's not a one-to-one correspondence. But why 1/3? Where should we look again for language like this to figure out what it means? The Old Testament. Ezekiel lived through the final fall of Jerusalem. I tell you what, I would not have wanted his life. You read through Ezekiel and the heartbreak of that man, as he had already been taken into exile, and God says, I'm going to give you these visions, and you're going to share them. And he sees ahead of time these excruciating details of the fall of Jerusalem. He has a vision of the very presence of God leaving the temple, removing his presence, and along with his presence goes his protection, because the nation of Israel rejected Yahweh, turning to others, worshiping others. Ezekiel 5 tells us, therefore, as I live, declares Yahweh, surely because you have defiled my sanctuary with all your detestable things and with all your abominations, therefore I will withdraw. My eye will not spare, and I will have no pity. A third part of you shall die of pestilence and be consumed with famine in your midst. A third part shall fall by the sword all around you, and a third part I will scatter to all the winds and will unsheath the sword after them. How often do we see tragedy strike and we think, man, I'm sorry that happened to them. I'm sorry about what's going on in Ukraine right now. I'm sorry about what's going on in Israel right now. I'm sorry about what's going on into Nigeria right now. I'm sorry what's happening to the immigrants in our country. I'm sorry, but I'm grateful it's not happening to me. Thank God it's not happening to me. And that's a normal thing. There is nothing wrong with that idea and being grateful that God is blessing you with safety right now. Unfortunately, it often creates a false sense of security. It hasn't happened to me. It can't happen to me. And this third language is removing that sense of security. You may avoid the fire, but what about the famine? What about the war? What about the sky falling? There is no hope outside of God's protection. Judgment is coming. And for the unbeliever, it should be terrifying. For the believer, it should bring us hope and joy that we will be rescued. And maybe even sadness for those that will have to go through it. We will not suffer God's wrath. I absolutely agree with our dispensational brothers and sisters on that point. God does discipline us, and that feels like wrath sometimes. Just like when a parent disciplines a child and the child doesn't understand the difference. Mom and dad are just mad at me. But then as they mature, they see the blessing that discipline was. God's discipline helps us become more like Christ. Because of our relationship as children of God, we can pray confidently, and he will keep us safe. He will bring us discipline. He will redeem us and save us from wrath. He will show up in our very lives. Because of our relationship, we can pray, may your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. We only got through one trumpet, and now we got a week off for Christmas. So take some time to read through them in the coming weeks, and we will go through the other trumpets in a couple of weeks. But right now, if you'll stand with me, we'll close as we always do with the words our Savior taught us as we let our prayers rise to God as the incense does. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.